She was a sight to behold everywhere she went. She was tall and dressed in shorts with jungle patterns and bright halter tops. Her mischievous grin and laughter could be heard across the fields. At the 1997 PGA Championship, cameras looked through the crowds to find John Daly's unpredictable swing. Instead, they found Pamela "Jungle Pam" Hardy, the sports fan who became a cultural hero. It was hard for him to wear those pyrotechnic outfits and have so much energy, and he had a hard childhood and a sad end that shocked everyone in the golf world. Pam was born in a rural part of Georgia in 1958. She grew up in a simple home where the weekends were spent at church, having family parties, and not playing golf. She worked as a maid in a neighboring house while her dad worked in a textile mill. It was hard to get money and nice things were hard to find. Pam found relief in nature. She picked blackberries in ditches next to the road, explored creeks with her cousin Bobby, and imagined herself at big events she had only seen on blurry TV. On the radio, she heard about the Masters from Augusta and dreamed of walking those green fields one day, even though she didn't hold a club until she was in her late teens. She had 2 part-time jobs while she was in high school. She bagged groceries and stocked shelves at a nearby hardware shop. She worked extra hours to pay for a used pair of irons she found at a Macon yard sale. Pam worked on her swings in a nearby field by hitting plastic wiffle balls over cow pastures and into rusty drums that were sitting far away. After 19 years, she was able to drive better than most men in her county, but her skills were still not perfect. She hitched rides to nearby junior events where a few people watched boring players in collared polos. You could tell Pam was there because of her faded tank tops and cutoff pants. She cheered on the competitors with the energy of 50 people. In 1991, when she was 32 years old, she went to the U.S. Come on in Georgia. She liked Daly, a big man with a low-slung cap who liked beer over water. He caught her eye with his incredible drive and disrespect for the sport's strict rules. At every tee box, Pam pushed up homemade signs that said, "Hit it hard, John," to cheer him on. And "Jungle Fever is still alive." By the last round, cameras caught her dancing barefoot on the grass while waving yellow ribbon pom-poms. Daly saw her and waved back. When he won, he asked her to join him in the winner's circle for a toast. That moment made her famous as John Daly's secret weapon, a crazy character. From then on, Pam always showed up at Daly's events. She made her clothes from clothes she found at thrift stores. For example, she cut old dresses into shorts and safety pin leopard print to bright pink tops. It was her job to grill hot dogs behind concession tables and carry a portable cooler full of his favorite Schlitz beers. She rigidly cheered before every drive, dashed into the rough when Daly's balls fell among the pines, and let out primal whoops with every swing that went more than 250 yards. Photographers caught all of her antics. Television networks called her Jungle Pam, which was a loving reference to her wild style and uncontrollable spirit. At first, her fame seemed to have no limits. There were feature stories in golf mags about the strange fan who became Daly's unofficial caddy. She went on talk shows wearing handmade jumpsuits with jungle patterns and talked about how she kept everyone calm during tough times. Fans sent her hand-sewn earrings in the shape of golf tees, and kids sent her art that showed her as a superhero saving lost golf balls. Pam loved it all and soaked up the attention like sunshine. She never forced to laugh and always stood by her friend. But her fame didn't protect her from her own problems. By 1999, there were reports of trouble back home. Pam's family fought over her new fame, and old friends said she seemed to be losing touch with reality. Even though she wasn't certified as a caddy, she spent weeks going to tournaments and spending all of her small savings. Pam's mother's health got worse, and it was hard for her to get solid care from far away. She had to deal with hotel rooms, backstage passes, and random phone calls to her family back home, where she promised to send money but instead spent it on travel costs and last-minute shopping trips for feather boas and glittery shirts. It crept into her life as a way to comfort herself and help her get by. She would toast Daly's drives with a beer or two, saying that it gave her voice more power and made her jungle roar stronger. She did take more behind closed doors, though, to calm down on lonely road nights. In 2004, she was seen stumbling out of a Las Vegas nightclub with a half-empty whiskey bottle in her hand. Photographers got blurry pictures of her. Tabloids ran headlines that said, "Jungle Pam goes off the rails." Daly, who drinks with Pam and is her friend, made a public plea: "Pam's my fan, my friend. She needs help, not headlines." The event made people care about her, but it also made her problems worse. Health problems showed up in the middle of the 2000s. Year after year of high-sugar snacks, late-night fast food, and worry made them weak. She was told she had type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure in its early stages. Doctors warned of possible problems, like neuropathy, vision loss, and heart issues, but Pam didn't care about regular checkups because they took her attention away from her one and only love. At almost 300 pounds, she gained a lot of weight, which made traveling hard and put stress on her knees. Fans set up a GoFundMe to help with her medical bills, but the money was often used to pay for lost wages or expensive purchases she made while she was on the road that she said were therapeutic. It was getting worse between her and Daly by 2008. She didn't have an official job on his team, and the tournament organizers were getting more worried about her liability. Security began to block her access to the course. In interviews, Daly defended her by calling her family, but he had to go on tour around the world without his jungle mascot because of sponsorship responsibilities and scheduling problems. Pam felt like she was alone and lost. She tried to branch out by going to events with other players and starting a line of fun clothes called Pam's Jungle, where she sold t-shirts with a cartoon version of herself on them. The business failed because of problems with shipping and quality. To make up for her losses, she sold personal items like torn hot dog wrappers and signed pictures in online auctions, but the sales were spotty. Even though she seemed flashy, her life was a quiet disaster. Pam was broken when her sister died suddenly in 2012. She became depressed and only drank and took adrenaline to stay alive. She missed whole seasons because she stopped going to the Walmart parking spots near the courses. Her fans were worried about her lack of posts on Instagram and looked for them. Pam is taking time to focus on health and family matters, Daly's publicist said in a statement. But there were no more updates. By 2014, she had stopped using social media. In its place, an unidentified obituary for her father had been posted. The people who used to cheer her on in her battles now understood how alone she was. The seasons changed again, and Pamela Hardy's world became even quieter. She disappeared totally from public view, leaving the jungle prints and stadium lights behind for the peace and quiet of her small Augusta apartment. The once loud fan whose cheers could be heard across the fairways now spent her days doing quiet things like going to the store early in the morning to get sugar-free cereal, watching tournament reruns with the noise turned down in the afternoon, and staring at empty walls in the evening. Her phone didn't ring, and her mailbox was empty. Sometimes, a kind neighbor saw her at the corner shop, sitting with a cup of decaf coffee and staring off into the distance as if she were looking at ghosts in the steam. The cafeteria worker once said, "Hey Pam, it's been a while." But she walked right by without smiling. The light from the swing in her living room became a sign of her absence instead of a reason to celebrate. In order to make ends meet, she did odd jobs like folding polo shirts at a cheap store and packing golf balls at a driving range. Each paycheck was just enough to cover rent and medications. Without regular check-ins, she had trouble managing her diabetes. Her vision got blurry, and her neuropathy made her legs hurt. She had to lie about back pain on bad days because she couldn't stand for long enough to serve people. She couldn't tie her shoelaces or write a quick note because her hands were shaking. She looked through her bedroom drawers for plastic bangles and feathered headbands that she used to collect and sold them at pawn shops for a few dollars when she was desperate. The flashy trinkets that made her famous in the past now felt like relics from a time she couldn't even remember. In 2016, she was briefly in the news again after a fight on Facebook. A former caddy shared an old picture of Jungle Pam cheering at St. Andrews from behind the 18th green. People who liked her wrote in the comments, "Bring her back. We miss her roar. Anytime, I'd drive her golf cart." But when someone tagged Pam's page, she didn't pay attention, and the thread died quickly. A few people tried to friend her, but she never replied. Blooper reels of her funniest moments were posted on a YouTube channel. She watched them once, tears running down her face, and then deleted the app, hating herself for both wanting and hurting. It got so bad with her health that it broke in 2017. A strict doctor told her that her blood sugar was too high, more than twice the safe level, during a regular checkup at a free clinic. Her blood pressure was very close to a hypertensive crisis, and an EKG showed that her heart rhythms were not normal. He told her that if she didn't get serious help right away, a new diet, insulin treatment, and stress management, she could have a stroke or heart attack in a few months. Pam gave a vague nod, and as she walked back into the hallway, the words hit her hard. As handouts about diabetic foot care and cardiac rehab fell to the floor, she held a gauze pad to her shaking hand and tried not to cry. She put them in her bag but never called the numbers on them. That fall, old friends talked about how she was getting worse. "Pam's in bad shape," said an unidentified voicemail to John Daly. "She is by herself in Augusta. I think she needs you." He read the message again late at night, his eyes red and his sleeves rolled up. He tried calling her even though he was very busy, but the call went straight to voicemail. He texted people they both knew, but none of them knew where she was. He felt bad about what he did because he understood that Jungle Pam's bravery had hidden a deeper weakness that he had never fully seen. He asked his boss to send a private detective, but by the time a lead came up, she had moved out of the Augusta apartment and into an empty room at a cheap motel outside of Columbus, Georgia. On a cold January morning, park guards found her body in the woods near the motel's back lot. She fell on slippery leaves and hit her head on a low branch. The doctor's worries about weak bones and health stood as silent proof. A bag of medical goods with an inhaler and insulin pens that she had never used was next to her. According to the police records, there were no signs of foul play. There was only one woman whose life had gone off track. When they found her tournament credentials on a dirty lanyard, the news sources brought her story back to life. "Jungle Pam's tragic end" was the headline, and there were grainy pictures of her laughing in leopard print under the summer sun. The outpouring of sadness that followed was just as sad as the silence she had to deal with. Fans left golf balls at the creepy door to the motel, put up banners with condolences outside of her childhood home in Georgia, and cried during live-streamed memorial services. "Pam gave me confidence when no one else would," Daly wrote in a touching tribute. "When I was down, her roar kept me going." Some famous people and golfers promised to respect her memory by giving money to a scholarship for superfans who are having health or money problems. The goal is to help these fans get through hard times and remember the woman who had brought so much joy into their lives. The story of Jungle Pam has been told many times over the years as a warning about the dangers of fame without any safety nets. Documentaries have followed her rise and fall and broken down every costume, cheer, and missed danger sign. Pam's Day fundraisers for diabetic care happen on golf courses, and in Augusta, a small bench with her name on it sits next to a practice green as a silent reminder that health can fade without care. Even after she's gone, her story goes on in the people who were moved by her to cheer louder, love harder, and take better care of their health. Even though Pamela "Jungle Pam" Hardy's last chapter was written by herself, her legacy lives on in every cheer that still echoes across fairways and in every heart that learns to listen when the roar stops. The world of golf seemed to blink in shock in the months after she died. It seemed like Jungle Pam's mighty cheer was still hanging in the air, waiting for one more roar. The fairways were eerier, and the television booths were quieter. A small group of Augusta fans put together an unofficial Pam's Day every spring. Before dawn, they met at Amen Corner and put hand-painted golf balls and leopard print bandanas on a worn-out bench next to a water hazard on number 12. As word spread, soon there were media teams there taking pictures of the old, stained memorials, which included photo albums, handwritten notes, and a single silver flask that said, "Hit it hard, John." It turned into a pilgrimage, with crazy fans driving hundreds of miles to honor the woman whose spirit went beyond any one event. Documentarians jumped on the trend. A film group led by award-winning director Marisol Brooks went to a rural part of Georgia to talk to Pam's childhood friends. When they went back to the rundown mill where her father used to work, it had been closed for decades. They also recorded cousins talking about swinging as teens in cow fields. With tears in her eyes, one cousin said that Pam's laughter coming from the fields was the purest music anyone ever heard. In Nashville, Brooks caught former tour bus drivers and local radio DJs talking about the first time Jungle Pam danced barefoot on the back of a flatbed truck while waving her signs in the Georgia sun. These interviews put together a picture of a woman who was more than just leopard print glitz, a picture of someone whose favorite thing to do was cheer on a loser. Some golf magazines did retrospectives. Golf Digest wrote a whole issue about Jungle Pam's legacy, with long essays and picture spreads of her most famous moments. An article called "The Woman Behind the Wild, Understanding Pam Hardy's Heart" talked about how she went from being a quiet fan to a cultural icon. Writers looked at how her wild excitement had ruffled the proper image of professional golf and brought in a more diverse crowd. They cited sports psychologists who said Pam's unfiltered support had made Daley feel better about himself, turning his fandom into an asset for his success. The article came to the conclusion that her memory lived on not only in memorials but also in the changing types of people who came to tournaments: families, hunters in camouflage, and even skateboarders who used to think golf was too stuffy. At the same time, Daley became a supporter of Pam's memory. He gave the money from some Pro-Am games to start the Jungle Pam Scholarship Fund, which helps young caddies who are having a hard time with money. A teen from South Africa whose mother grew tea leaves before dawn so her son could caddy, a young woman from Scotland who had trouble paying for club rentals, and a boy from Japan who practiced tipping clubs to whisper good luck under the sakura flowers. Many years ago, Daley asked some scholars to attend his annual gala in Las Vegas. There, they met past pros, toured private courses, and listened to Daley tell stories about Pam's crazy situations. Each story made me laugh and cry, and it reminded me that connections between people last much longer than championship scores. Every year on Pam's birthday, the hashtag #JunglePam was popular on social media. Fans put faded Polaroids of her cheering behind greens, stories of running into her in the autograph line, and lessons they had learned from her, like being brave, kind, and willing to stand out. A famous Instagram account called it Roar Like Pam asked its followers to post videos of themselves supporting local sports teams, charity runs, and other community events in Pam's name. The movement used her memory as a call to action: always stand by others, even when people expect you to be quiet. Video montages showed different voices, such as those of graduating seniors at historically black schools and frontline healthcare workers. All of them echoed Pam's trademark enthusiasm in their own fields. The Golf Halls of Fame changed their displays to include a Jungle Pam area. In one glass case was her custom-stitched halter top with flags from every country she'd been to, and in another was her damaged cooler that still had Schlitz foam stains on it. People could use interactive screens to look through her scrapbook of airline napkins, ticket stubs, and hotel keycards that she had written encouraging notes on for Daley. On the radio, clips of her famous whoops and loud cheers were played. A sign next to the exhibit said, "Pam's legacy teaches us that fandom is more than just going to events, it's taking part in someone else's dream." But the most moving remembrance came from Augusta, 10 years after she died. Near the practice range, the tournament organizers revealed a bronze statue of Jungle Pam in the middle of a cheer, with one foot on a rock and the other hand raised high, as if throwing invisible pom-poms into the air. The sculptor got the shape of her grin, the way her head was tilted, and the feel of her shorts with a jungle print. When the statue was unveiled, Daley stood with the crowd and spoke deeply. He put his hand on the cool metal and said, "Here's to you, Pam. Your roar never stops." Sociologists and writers used her story in classes and lecture halls about fandom and pop culture. They talked about how her rise from the ground up foreshadowed the influencer economy of today, with real popularity beating out any paid promotion. They talked about the thin line between love and passion, using Pam's problems to show how people should behave when following celebrities. The Pam Hardy Memorial Lecture on Community Engagement was formed by alumni of her alma mater to look at how passionate and unwavering support can help one person make a difference in the world. Last but not least, Jungle Pam's trip from the fields in rural Georgia to the world's most famous golf courses and finally to her own death shows a timeless truth: one happy voice can echo through hearts in history. She taught people a simple lesson: live life with wild abandon, cheer for others with all your heart, and never forget that one person's roar can change the game. This lesson is carried forward when people watch documentaries, meet at tournaments, or walk by her statue early in the morning. When Jungle Pam died, her story kept going around in golf culture for years afterward, showing fans that passion can last longer than praise. Golf courses in the area started holding charity tournaments called Pam Hardy Invitationals. People who entered wore leopard print accessories and gave their entry fees to help fund diabetes research. Families told the local news about how Jungle Pam taught them to cheer loudly and without shame. Neighbors remembered practicing swinging in the backyard with loud cheers, and brothers tried new hobbies because they saw how happy she was. In both small places and big cities, she encouraged regular people to enjoy moments of happiness wherever they were. On college campuses, sports psychology classes used her story to show how positive feedback can help athletes do better. They looked at Daly's career after Pam started showing up to his tea times and making them more fun. Professors showed clips of her happy celebrations after she won, and they talked about how her real excitement created a feedback loop that kept her focused and lowered her performance anxiety. Students did the same experiment in intramural leagues, but this time they chose enthusiasm captains to cheer for every partner. In one sociology class, surveys were used to compare teams with and without designated cheerleaders. The results showed that players had more fun and felt more connected when someone took on the part that Pam had so vividly embodied. At the same time, people who support women's rights used her legacy to fight against negative ideas about fandom and women's participation in places dominated by men. Leading magazines wrote about Jungle Pam along with other groundbreaking female athletes, praising her for claiming exposure on fairways where women were once told not to. In an opinion piece in the New York Times, it was said that her unrestrained support broke the norm of polite spectatorship and encouraged other women to stand proudly in any venue they chose. At golf schools, coaches used her as an example of how female fans can make the sport better by adding their own energy instead of just watching. Girls in junior groups were asked to wear bright bandanas to games in her honor. Jungle Pam got a new fan base in the digital age thanks to short videos and memes that went popular. Videos of her dancing barefoot in greens with her collars flipped up were shared a lot on social media sites. During live streams of tournaments, influencers used the hashtag #RoarLikePam to rally their followers. They told viewers to reply with supportive emojis and share messages of support for the competitors. Even esports commentators copied her style, breaking up dramatic scenes with happy overlays and fan-made images celebrating wins by underdogs. Through these means, her message went beyond golf and reached a wide range of groups that valued strong support. As important cultural objects, sports memorabilia museums started to buy Jungle Pam items. Her original halter tops, signs that said "Hit it hard, John," and her broken-down cooler covered in travel stickers were all part of a moving show called Fandom Unleashed. People could put on virtual beach shorts and walk into a practice bunker replica through interactive displays. There, they could record their own cheers and see them shown on a fake scoreboard. Curators saw people cry and laugh as they remembered how happy she was, showing that fandom is strong for both sports and cheerleaders. A retrospective documentary about Daly's life was shown for the first time at film festivals around the world in 2022. It included interviews with tournament officials, family members, and people whose lives she had touched. Old videos of her yelling from the rough, narrations that put her role in society's bigger picture, and animated scenes of her early days in Georgia fields were shown to viewers. The maker of the movie said that Jungle Pam's life story showed larger American themes, such as the search for happiness in hard times, the rise and fall of fame, and the basic need to connect with others. Some reviewers said it was an emotional story about the person who became the heartbeat of a sport. And when John Daly was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame, he spoke about her in his award speech. He talked about how she had changed the course of his career and praised her as a co-hero in his story. With his eyes wide with joy, he showed off a leopard print picture of Pam that will hang in the Hall of Fame. People stood up and cheered as Daly talked about how hearing her roar had helped him get over slumps and find new confidence during important events. That moment cemented her place in golf history, not just as a fan, but also as a key factor in the rise of one of the sport's most interesting winners. To celebrate her, community centers and youth programs kept making Jungle Pam zones at local tournaments. These were places where everyone could cheer, complete with signs, pom-poms, and silly costumes. Volunteers led families to these areas and taught kids simple songs and told them to celebrate the accomplishments of all the players. Organizers said that these areas made the groups friendlier and more excited, and they made new viewers feel welcome instead of scared. The simple act of organized cheering became a live memorial to her belief that unrestrained support can make people feel better and make communities stronger. Lastly, the Jungle Pam Scholarship Fund grew by adding health and wellness classes that were inspired by her experience in giving money to people who want to become caddies. Basic medical check-ins, mental health tools, and fitness sessions designed to fit the needs of gigging musicians were all part of the programs. Some of the fund representatives had been given scholarships and were now going to schools and clubs to tell Pam's story as both a warning and a sign of hope. You can follow your interests with all your heart, but you need to look out for your health along the way. Jungle Pam's name became linked to responsible fandom, teaching us that happiness and care can and should go together. Since Chapter 4's moving tributes, Jungle Pam's influence has grown even more, inspiring a wide range of cultural, educational, and charitable projects that have spread far beyond golf's fairways. The University of Georgia started the Hardy Fellowship in Community Spirit in 2023. This program gives yearly grants to students who show great enthusiasm and support in any area, such as sports, the performing arts, the debate team, or local nonprofits. Each spring, the winners go to Augusta to give speeches at Pam's Corner, a memorial pavilion outside the clubhouse where cheer workshops are held. These workshops teach golf fans and newbies how to turn Pam's unbridled joy into positive energy. These fellowships bring out a very important lesson. Pam's real gift wasn't her outfit or camera flash, but the way her roar made people feel good. Digital tools have also kept her memory alive forever. A fan-made augmented reality filter went viral on social media in 2024. It let people wear Jungle Pam's famous halter top and wave virtual pom-poms while watching live streams of big tournaments. The filter's description says, "Roar like Pam, encourage every athlete, uplift every spirit." The developers have promised that a portion of the money raised through in-app donations will go to the Pamela Hardy Health Trust, which helps underserved areas get type 2 diabetes screenings and treatment. Recently, an online museum-quality virtual tour came out. It included 360-degree renderings of her famous outfits, pages from her personal scrapbook, and recorded honors from John Daly and other PGA greats. Teachers now use these digital archives as part of their lessons on being a sports fan, showing how one person's love can change the way a group of people experience things. Giving back to others is still a big part of her background. The Jungle Pam Scholarship Fund grew in 2025 to include wellness programs for superfans and tour support staff, such as ball boys and girls, caddies, groundskeepers, and even concession workers. These programs offered financial aid for therapy for mental health, training in ergonomics, and nutritional coaching. Physiotherapists and registered dietitians worked out of mobile wellness vans parked by player entrances at the PGA Championship in Louisville later that same year. They were there to give free consultations. Volunteers wore handmade shirts with Pam's jungle design on them, and they told people to take 5-minute breaks to drink water and stretch gently. Later, one groundskeeper talked about how the quick neck massage service in the van helped his chronic pain so much that he didn't miss a shift during the whole event. At that moment, Pam's spirit told him that real fans care about the people who work with the stars. Echoes of Encouragement, a moving art show based on her cultural resonance, opened at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History in 2026. The piece was put together by sports historians and interactive media artists. It included her well-worn cooler, her original pom-poms and signs, as well as soundscapes of her recorded cheers and laughter. People could walk into a replica of the U.S. Open the fairway and let Pam's joy fill them up through directed speakers. The exhibit gave teachers a chance to talk about identity, support networks, and the power of cheerleading to bring people together in sports and social justice groups. In one workshop, people choreographed group cheers for community action campaigns, using Pam's philosophy of supporting underdogs to support causes like protecting the environment and promoting reading in the community. Pam's life was a tapestry of open humanity long before highlight reels made her actions famous. However, it took decades for institutions to fully understand how much she affected people. Now, in 2027, the off-Broadway hit Roar in the Rough looks at her rise, her struggles, and her unwavering spirit. The play, which was written by Hannah Delgado and directed by the visionary Marcus Lee, ties together scenes from Pam's childhood in rural Georgia with her glamorous days on the tour circuit. It mixes dramatic storylines with direct addresses to the audience. The group asks audience members to stand and give each other heartfelt applause at the end of each performance. This is an interactive tribute to Pam's belief that real celebration lies in shared sincerity. The play has been praised by critics as a life-changing theatrical experience and a live tribute to a woman who showed the world that loud support can bring people together. The Hardy Harvest Festival in her hometown near Macon, Georgia, every November is one of the most personal ways she celebrates her history. What began as a small get-together of childhood friends has grown into a multi-day event with live bluegrass bands, crafts made by local artists using jungle prints, and community golf lessons led by junior golf ambassadors. The Echo Lab, a round stage where people share personal stories about how Jungle Pam inspired them, is still the highlight of the event. These stories echo like ripples across a pond. One year, a middle school teacher talked about how she used Pam's cheering style to help shy students feel more confident during speeches. These students then went on to become leaders. Each story thread joins together to make a tapestry of strength, showing that Pam's roar is still heard in the brave things people do every day. The heartbeat of Jungle Pam lives on through academic fellowships, digital innovations, health outreach, immersive exhibits, tributes in the theater, and hometown events. Her story is bigger than any single fairway or title, and it encourages everyone to find out how real encouragement can change their lives. If there are fields to explore, stages to conquer, or quiet places where someone needs a boost, the spirit of Pam Hardy will lead them to roar with all the warmth, sincerity, and bravery that made her life so remarkable. Even though she has been gone for more than 20 years, Jungle Pam's roar can still be heard on fairways and fields of endeavor far beyond golf's flawless greens. Fans celebrate her life with banners, cheers, and charity drives every year when competition season starts. They do this to remember her joyful spirit. Her impact, on the other hand, goes beyond ceremonies. It has become a part of our culture and has inspired projects that remind us all of the power of real support and community. Take the annual Roar Like Pam Fund, which was started by golf groups around the world in 2028. Athletes, sponsors, and fans can all work together through this program to give local community sports groups startup money. As part of the Jungle Cheer Dare, people promised to record videos of themselves cheering on youth teams in their own towns. For every #RoarLikePam video shared online, corporate partners donate an equal amount to grassroots sports programs. This helps make equipment grants, coaching clinics, and scholarship opportunities possible. In underserved areas, young athletes now use new equipment to do drills. They know that the spirit of a fan who stood barefoot on the green is cheering them on. Jungle Pam's life story is still studied by academics as an example of how fans can affect people and how social psychology works. Universities teach classes called The Sociology of Cheer, which look at how positive feedback affects the morale of groups in sports and the workplace. Students look at Pam's antics on the course and try to figure out how her unbridled excitement led to changes in athletes' focus and performance that can be measured. Psychology schools want to learn more about emotional contagion and use her as an example of how one person can affect a group's mood. Industrial and organizational consultants use her methods to help build teams and businesses, showing workers how to celebrate real wins and create a supportive work environment. Honors in the form of art keep coming out. A famous graphic writer published Jungle Pam, Beyond the Links in 2029. It was a colorful comic series that told the story of her rises, struggles, and victories. The graphic novel shows less well-known parts of her life through lively pictures and touching conversation. These include late-night thoughts in motels, acts of kindness done behind the scenes, and the friendships that kept her going. In literature classes, teachers use the book to talk about narrative style, theme, and the hero's journey in nonfiction writing. Reading circles and art classes are held in libraries where people can make their own fan-inspired comic panels and reimagine Pam's legacy for future generations. Her torch is also carried by technology. With interactive broadcast features, watchers can turn on a Jungle Cam during live tournaments, which streams fan messages and historical highlights in real time. Fans can use virtual reality to fully experience what it would be like to be Pam, standing right behind the pin at a big championship, feeling the rush of adrenaline with every drive and high-fiving other fans. These digital innovations combine nostalgia with modern involvement, making sure that new audiences hear her story in ways that are memorable and involve them. Most likely, the most lasting honor comes from the hearts of regular people who were inspired by her. A high school director in Texas remembers how a student on the debate team got over being nervous on stage by picturing Jungle Pam cheering from the crowd. She had the courage to give a great talk after that moment of imagined support. A marathon runner who was having doubts shared a video of himself yelling Pam-style roars at mile markers to keep himself going for the whole 26.2 miles. Kids in small towns learn that even the biggest dreams need help sometimes, and that support can come from someone right behind them at birthday parties where trivia about her life is played. Pamela Hardy's family keeps her memory alive through public and private collections and scholarly files. Her niece keeps handwritten notes that show a more private side of the woman who is usually very happy. In those writings, she writes about her feelings of self-worth, her need to fit in, and the complicated nature of fame. Researchers who look into these works find out more about her personality. Fans are reminded that behind every mythical figure is a person with hopes, fears, and weaknesses. As entertainment and sports change, Jungle Pam's philosophy can help fans be more responsible and get involved in their communities. Using her story as an example of a real link, social media sites are changing their algorithms to show more real, positive interactions instead of divisive speech. Based on Pam's example, venues have set up encouragement zones where people are encouraged to use their energy to help others instead of being negative or interrupting others. Pam reminders, which are simple on-screen messages that tell viewers to send notes of support to underdog athletes or new stars, are sometimes shown in broadcast graphics. Jungle Pam shows us that one person's passion can affect many people far beyond their own direct circle. Her journey, which had amazing highs and hard lows and an unwavering determination to support others, continues to motivate people to understand others, enjoy their successes, and be kind in all areas of their lives. Her roar still sounds and reminds us to lift others up with love and fire.